as you can see, I'm showing the dashboard again. And well, to summarize what we've done, we went through the whole planning and risk assessment, imported the trial balance, etc. Then we did our risk response. We did the actual field work, did all the referencing, adding supporting documents in the caseware document manager. So now it's time to move over to the completion and reporting part of the engagement. And the first thing that I would like to show you here is how we can deal with identified misstatements. Let me show you that in full screen mode. In this worksheet, we will, here at the top, it repeats the performance materiality and also the clearly trivial amount. You can choose to round it, yes or no. And with this button, you can just quickly jump to your adjusting journal entries in case we're working papers. So just to give you a quick impression, I'm going to create a couple of adjustments. What's quite important is that as long as your adjustments are misstatements or unrecorded, you should pick one of these categories. So let me start with a unrecorded factual adjustment. Let's do raw materials for X amount and make sure that also goes into the P&L. Yeah, probably not the best accounting there, but anyway. So if I have this as an unrecorded factual adjusting journal entry and click OK, you can see that it actually shows up in this line here, which is the total of all my unrecorded misstatements with the type factual. It shows me that the assets are impacted, my P&L, and because of that also my equity. I could create another one. Let's say that is a unrecorded judgmental. Look for something at the credit side. Yeah, that's there. And then, well, also something in the P&L. Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna, okay, forget about that. And you can see that now gets shown in this line here, unrecorded misstatements, judgmental. So it actually summarizes, and I think it gives you a very nice overview. If you talk to your client and the client decides to accept this one, and it now switches from an unrecorded into a normal adjustment, I can just change the type here, click OK, and you can see it moves over to this line. So I think that's a very helpful little worksheet. By clicking any of these references here, it will take you actually into the automatic document that will show you a list of, in this situation, all the unrecorded misstatements. So that really ties together quite nicely, I think. On that topic, let's go and have a quick look at the FSA worksheet. And what you can see here, okay, let me just show you that in full screen mode. When I go to my equity or my payables, there's also now a column of unrecorded adjusting journal entries in the FSA worksheet. So this will actually help you in your finalization of your audit as well. So you can see, well, the FSA becomes more and more of the overview of everything that has happened in your engagement file. Okay, so let me close that and go back to the dashboard. That's one thing. What I think is really quite a nice feature as well is what we call the partner and manager summary document. It kind of depends on how you organize your audits and how you organize your review. But the idea of this document is that the partner would only sign off on a couple of documents and he would not go through all the details. Now, in order to do an efficient, let's call it top-down review, the partner and manager summary will summarize all the relevant key aspects of your audit. So it starts here with the materiality, then it goes to all the areas that are material, it connects to the audit program, and then summarizes all the risks. So this is a risk that was linked to accounts receivable, all the issues. You might recall this from the procedure where we click that little red button, and it repeats the conclusion. So having those pieces of information should be a good starting point for review. Then you have all these drill downs and you can just drill down into the details. well, issues sometimes tend to become very operational, so the wording can be quite operational. You can see this is an input, so now I can go in and change the wording of my issue, and this is actually not stored in the issue but only stored in this memo, in this partner manager summary. So then it's a little bit cleaner, and well, you don't want all these operational details, you just want to have a clear explanation of the issue that was found, um, and how that was handled throughout the audit. If you want to go back to the original, you can restore, and you can choose to refresh this partner and manager summary, keeping your modified wording, or going back to the original, let's say operational wording that was stored in the actual issue. So that's the partner manager summary document. And then finally, let's have a look at the management letter. Now, I'm going to show you this from the view of the management letter report, so that might be a bit awkward, but anyway. So during this audit, we identified a couple of risks. We identified issues. If you want to report something that was found, you have to create a separate little thing or object, which is what we call reportable item, but I would translate that as management letter point. So I would go in and say this is management letter point 1. Here I can write down the observation or the weakness, and excuse me, but I'm just gonna do this. Okay, let's just imagine that's Dutch. You couldn't read it anyway. So that's my observation. I can now link this to any of the risks we have identified. So I think downturn in the economy, that was one of the risks. I don't have the control switched on because I'm using the one form profile, but if I had, I could also link this to a control, and I can imagine that's a bit more, makes a bit more sense, because then if a control is not effective, you can link your management letter point to the control, and then you would explain why and what the risk is, etc. Okay, so this is my reportable item itself. If I save this, you can see it now shows up in the report. It shows the linked risks. Here it would show the linked controls, and I could now drill down and bring it up again. So what would happen during an audit is that the team would collect all these possible management letter points, and now in this section of the dialogue, I will make my decisions which ones I'm actually reporting and including in my management letter. So I can use this feature to create up to 10 different reports or letters. So small audit, you probably only do a management letter. If you do a larger audit, you would probably also have a report for those charged with governance. If you do a listed company audit or maybe a financial institution, you would probably also write something for the internal audit department. So then you can just configure more letters. What is important here is that with this yes and no, you specify what you do want to show in which letter. So let's say no, I'm only going to do it in this management letter. That's a yes. Now the observation is one thing. More important is probably the recommendation. That's where you add your value as the accountant or the auditor. So there's a couple of things here. You can create a new one, you can do a manual one, you can copy an existing, but I promise you this at the beginning of the presentation. You can also download this from Caseware RiskSpace. So let me explain a little bit about Caseware RiskSpace. RiskSpace is a online library which is free to all the users of Audit International, and it contains audit risk, controls, and management letter recommendations. So instead of downloading recommendations, I could also download a audit risk or controls. And the goal is to help you, to help our users to do a good audit and to help you identify risks or pick controls. Now, why I like management letter points so much is because I think recommendations really show the knowledge of the accountant, and this is and add value to your service. So we really want to help you communicate that to your clients. Now it has type ahead, so I'm just going to do IT. I'm just going to pick something that's IT, and it now filters all the recommendations that have IT in the description. And I'm just going to pick a couple. I can pick these three, click OK, and they will be downloaded into my engagement file. And now here I can also choose that it's not necessarily only the weakness that we found that we're going to report, but we're also going to report these recommendations. So that's the decision that I'm making here for each and every management letter point. Then I'm going to save that into my caseware database. And let's jump to the actual letter itself. So that's here, 365, the actual management letter. It starts with some introductory text header. This is something you can modify quite easily. It's just text. So you can do that at the template level, then it will be there for all users in their engagement files. If I hit this refresh, that will actually bring in my data from the database. So it will bring in the observation from my management letter point. Weakness, I don't want that. I can delete that. And then here it will also bring in the recommendations. And now you can see that these recommendations are actually quite extensive. It's not just one line that only shows up in the reportable item dialog, but this is actually the whole text of the whole recommendation. Similar as with the one form, we really wanted to give you a text editor experience. So as you can see, I can just go in, modify whatever I want, add text to this. So it's really just text editing. And I think that's the way you want to write your management letter. You don't want to be boxed in all these dialogues and fields, and so it's more free form. And hopefully that's very close to how you are used to writing your management letters. If you want to redo it, you can hit this refresh. It will bring in the data from the database again, but you will lose all your customizations that you made in your actual letter. Okay. Oh, final thing. With management letter items, same as with controls, risks, issues, you can also mark a little tick box that says roll forward. That makes sure that if you do your year-end close in the new file, that reportable item, management letter point, or risk or control will be available as well. So especially for your management letter, I think that's very efficient. So if you want to report a couple of the same items from one year to the next, you don't have to redo any work. There's even a field there that you can switch on that says, okay, comments on prior year reportable items, and so it will just save you a lot of work, and it will actually give you management of your management letter points. Okay, so let me close that, go back to my dashboard. So that kind of takes us through the whole flow. Of course, in the completion, you would go back to your one form audit memo as well, and we have some sections there on the completion and the engagement wrap up. Maybe the final thing to show you here is on the engagement, cleanup, year-end close, and lockdown. Year-end close is what you would do when you have completed your file. It will create the next year's client file. All your financial information will be moved to the prior year. Very important, all your tailoring, your completion responses and everything will be available in that next year's file. The mapping is not something you have to redo. When you do a year-end close, you will keep that, and the next year you just re-import the trial balance and you're done. All the customizations in your document, the decisions which documents you are relevant will also be there. So when you do your year-end close, let's say your 2014 engagement file will just be a copy of whatever you did in 2013. I think that's really very important to know. And then the lockdown, it's a very formal process, but because of that, very important. So you can say, I want to lock down my file. And if you have the security switched on, that means no one can even edit it anymore. It will become read-only. If you don't have the security switched on, it will give you very clear warnings that you shouldn't touch your file anymore because it's archived, it's locked down. And well, it depends on which jurisdiction you are. It will show that it takes 60 days or 30 days after you send the report that you should lock down your file. So for anyone that has been watching all these videos in a row, I hope it was very clear. Please get in touch with us if you have any more questions, and hope you become a very happy user using Caseful Working Papers and Audit International. Thank you.